Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech Adon b'chol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon b'chol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'v'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Baruch atah Adonai HaMevorech et Amo Yisrael Hashem.
Amen. Gary, that was so prayerful, so beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Todah.
Absolutely beautiful. So of course, this week is a double portion, so we got to get into it. And it's like Moses wants us to be holy. Here we go. Who would like to start? This is kind of the greatest of the great words, right? Who would like to start?
I'll start.
All right, Ruth, go for it.
You stand this day, all of you, before the eternal your God, you tribal heads, you elders, and you officials, all the men of Israel, you children, you women, even the stranger within your camp, from wood chopper to water drawer, to enter into the covenant of the eternal your God, which the eternal your God is concluding with you this day, with its sanctions, in order to establish you this day as God's people, and in order to be your God, as promised you, and has sworn to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, make this covenant with its sanctions, not with you alone, but both with those who are standing here with us this day before the eternal our God, and with those who are not with us here this day. Interesting. It's people that aren't here too. I thought that was interesting. Well, you know that we dwelt. Oh, we continue? Okay. Well, you know that we dwelt in the land of Egypt, and that we passed through the midst of various other nations. And you have seen the detestable things and the fetishes of wood and stone, silver and gold that they keep. Perchance there is among you some man or woman or some clan or tribe whose heart is even now turning away from the eternal our God to go to worship the gods of those nations. Perchance there's among you a stalk sprouting poison weed and wormwood. Ugh. When hearing the words of these sanctions, such a one may imagine a special immunity, thinking, I shall be safe, though I follow my own willful heart, to the utter ruin of moist and dry alike. The Eternal will never forgive each individual's, rather the Eternal's anger and passion will rage against them, till every sanction recorded in this book comes down upon them, and the Eternal blots out their name from under heaven. As for such a clan or tribe, the Eternal will single it out from all the tribes of Israel for misfortune in accordance with all the sanctions of the covenant recording in this book of teaching. In later generations will ask the children who succeed you, and foreigners who come from distant lands and see the plagues and diseases from the Eternal has inflicted upon that land. All its soil devastated by sulfur and salt, beyond sowing and producing, no grass growing in it, just like the upheaval of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zebulun from the Eternal overthrew in fierce anger. All nations will ask, why did the Eternal do thus to this land? Wherefore that awful wrath? They will be told because they forsook the covenant that the Eternal God of their ancestors made. Not go too far. Made with them upon freeing them from the land of Egypt. They turned to the service of other gods and worshiped them, gods whom they had not experienced and whom God had not allotted to them. So the Eternal was incensed at that land and brought upon it all the curses recorded in the book. The Eternal uprooted from their soil in anger, fury, and great wrath, and cast them into another land, as is still the case. Concealed acts concern the Eternal our God, but with overt acts, it is for us and our children ever to apply all the provisions of this teaching.
Wow. Oh man, this is
That's
something.
That's a lot of anger and stuff.
That is what I like too. Is like it talks about concealed acts. Like we kind of heard this a little back then, where it was like, oh, he like said, oh, maybe I'll just right here, I shall be safe, thinking I shall be safe though I follow my own willful heart. You know, like quietly, I'll be okay. It's really nice that we come together as a group and we say, yes, we're going to bow down to the Eternal, but I'll be safe if I do what I want to do. You know, it's kind of words, good words for us to think about.
There's also a special meaning to where it says moist, both moist and dry alike. I don't remember what that means. Maybe you do, Dr. Mike. There's something I once read in a commentary somewhere where it says there, the ruin.
You know what I thought of when I saw that moist and dry, that he would bring on more rain or be a dry, like an arid desert. That's what I thought of.
I buy
don't know
that.
if it means that.
Like floods and aridness.
I think what I read was something different, but I don't remember what it was, though.
It was just my
But
take.
I did read something about that, though, an interpretation of that, so I'm just throwing it out there.
It's all good stuff. All really good stuff. Who wants to pick it up at 30? Cynthia?
Okay. When all these things befall you, the blessing and the curse that I have set before you, and you take them to heart amidst the various nations to which the Eternal your God has banished you, and you return to the Eternal your God, and you and your children heed God's command with all your heart and soul, just as I enjoin upon you this day. Then the Eternal your God will restore your fortunes and take you back in love. God will bring you together again from all the peoples where the Eternal your God has scattered you. Even if your outcasts are at the ends of the world, from there the Eternal your God will gather you, from there God will fetch you. And the Eternal your God will bring you to the land that your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And God will make you more prosperous and more numerous than your ancestors. I don't mean to intersperse my opinion, but it makes me think of Israel now, then here it is that we come back. I don't know.
That's okay. Mike, if you go back a couple of lines up.
Yeah.
Okay. It's on 4.
Number 4. Okay.
Okay. The Eternal your God will gather you from there. Will bring you to the land of that your fathers possessed, and you shall possess. Okay. That is the passage that was actually read at the United Nations in 1948 when they approved the establishment of the State of Israel.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. That's beautiful. Yeah. That is beautiful. And I think we're going to get into the blessings and the curse part too.
Oh yeah.
which is like
last week.
Not like last week. This is a little easier than the last week was tough.
Bad news.
Yeah. Where were we?
Fire and brimstone here.
I know, but this is a beautiful thing. Look at this. He's gonna. God will bring you back in love. He's gonna restore your fortunes. He's gonna take you back in love. God will bring you together again from all the peoples where God has scattered you. I mean, this is some prophetic words, isn't it? Amazing. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Astounding. Where were we? Where did we leave off? Was it 6?
Did you want me to go on? Okay.
Yes, please, Cynthia.
Okay. Then the eternal your God will open up your heart and the hearts of your offspring to love the eternal your God with all your heart and soul in order that you may live. The eternal your God will inflict all those curses upon the enemies and foes who persecuted you. You, however, will again heed the eternal and obey all the divine commandments that I enjoined upon you this day. And the eternal your God will grant you abounding prosperity in all your undertakings, in your issue from the womb, your offspring from the cattle, and your produce from the soil. For the eternal will again delight in your well-being, as in that of your ancestors, since you will be heeding the eternal your God and keeping the divine commandments and laws that are recorded in this book of the teaching. Once you return to the eternal your God with all your heart and soul. Surely this instruction, which I enjoin upon you this day, is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond reach. It is not in the heavens that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it? Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it? No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to observe it.
Wow. I love this. This is one of my favorite verses of the whole Torah. We don't have to go anywhere. No one can take it from us. It's our faith. No one can even, there's no way that they can touch it. As long
And
as
Teshuva,
We carry
along
it with
with
us
it,
wherever we go.
Teshuva is always right there too.
We carry it with it wherever we go. We carry it with us. It's in us.
Anytime you stray, you're able to return instantly, not just on Yom Kippur.
Absolutely.
Because every day of your life is Yom Kippur.
Yeah,
Because
it's
it could be
Teshuva.
your last, so you have
Right.
to.
And Mike, one other thing that you can see in here on 10.
Yep.
Okay, up until the time when we were up, until the time when the first temple was destroyed, the book was not called the Torah. The book was called the Book of the Teaching, as you can see there.
Right.
Right there.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was only later on that we started calling it the Torah.
Incredible. Wow. These are great words. This is a little easier than last week.
I think it's kind of tongue-in-cheeky too about like, this isn't too hard for you, is it? I like that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you think about if everyone's gathered, like right off the top of this whole thing, he's gathered the whole, what is it, like 600,000 people, 1 million people at this point? It was 600,000 was just the men, isn't that right? And so it was, so you're talking at least double that. And here they are, and they're coming to come in contact, to have the covenant with God Almighty forever. And we're still talking about it today, 5,000 or whatever years later. Hallelujah.
And they didn't have a
Praise
megaphone
the
in
Lord.
those days either.
It's
They
relevant
didn't have
today.
a
as it
megaphone
was
or a
then.
microphone.
Amazing stuff. Amazing. What were you going to say, Maureen? I think
I said it is as relevant now as it was then. It is always relevant. The words of Torah are always relevant. They're now.
That's
Timeless.
amazing. Absolutely. Who would like to read 15?
I can.
All right, Bracha.
See, I set before you this day life and prosperity, death and adversity. For I command you this day to love the eternal your God, to walk in God's ways and to keep God's commandments, God's laws and God's rules, that you may thrive and increase, and that the eternal your God may bless you in the land that you're about to enter and possess. But if your heart turns away and you give no heed and are lured into the worship and service of other gods, I declare to you this day that you shall certainly perish. You shall not long endure on the soil that you're crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day. I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life if you and your offspring would live by loving the eternal your God, heeding God's commandments and holding fast to God, for thereby you shall have life and shall long endure upon this soil that the Eternal swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, to give to them.
Wow.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Amazing.
That's wonderful.
And Mike, if you
That's a
remember
wonderful
from,
passage.
Mike, if you remember from last week, if you get down to the bottom, again, towards the end, okay, you see the merisms of the Bible. I have put before you life and death,
Right.
blessing and curse. See it?
Heaven and
those are
earth.
two
Yes.
merisms right there, which we talked about last week.
Choose
Right.
life.
That's right. That's right. And the beauty of this thing is right on 15. See, I set before you this day.
Life and prosperity,
Yes.
and adversity, same thing.
And it's, to
We have
me,
free
that's
Our
like
choice.
almost every day. You can almost read that every day as if every day is set in this fashion. Life and prosperity. Choose it, death or adversity. For I command you to this day to love the eternal God, walk in God's ways. Choose. He just says choose, doesn't it? Isn't there one
That's
of
free
those?
choice.
Yes, exactly.
Choose life.
Choose life. Right. Where was that? There it is. Choose life if you would and your offspring would live. Choose.
Right.
Choose. It's the choice of each day, I think,
Wake up every morning and you choose it. That's right.
That's amazing. Wow, wonderful. Anything else anyone want to talk about? Wow, because we
I
can go
just
right
think
on.
like when it talks about the Torah being close to you, as I started to say before, I think the other thing is Teshuva. Teshuva is no matter how far away you stray, you can immediately be right back at any time. It's not just on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is like the holiday that God gives us specifically, collectively, as the community of the children of Israel to engage in Teshuva, during the days of awe and the high holy days. But in essence, every single day of your life, you should be repenting for anything that you've done wrong.
And asking forgiveness of those if you've hurt them. Absolutely.
Right. Because it's like you're supposed to, if you stray, you should experience Teshuva the day before you die. And you don't know when that is. So that's why you're
never know.
supposed to,
In God's
every
hands.
single day. Every
Right.
single day is Teshuva.
Right.
But it's always immediately there, right at the snap of a finger.
Right.
Amazing. Amazing. What? All right. Anything else before we move on? Lauren, anything?
No, you're going too fast for me.
I know this is one you want to put it on the slow burn, like let it roast, let it let it go on the long barbecue for 4 or 5 hours. It's beautiful. But it's so good to see everybody. I'm so glad, Ellie, you're back. I'm so glad. It's so good to see you, Ellie. Yeah, these are my favorite words ever, always. Let me see. What else?
With all those Mishabeirachs and Refuahs we were giving Ellie, it's just a matter of time till she would be right here back with us and okay,
Mishabeirach's a part of, I think Mishabeirach's is part of Teshuva too. That, it's like we got to continue to give Mishabeirach so that we can have people come back. That's what I think of it like,
I have a very long list.
So we'll keep on working at it.
That's right. That's right. All right. Let me see if I can screen share. Here we are. How do you say this one, Gary? Vayeilech. Vayeilech. All right. Thank you, Ruth.
Vayeilech.
This is the second portion. And this is okay, so we got this photo, and it's the handoff, right? The race.
Right.
We're handing it off from
Oh my goodness.
Moses to Joshua, right?
That's cool. I like that. I like that analogy.
Let
Yeah,
the word
they
go
told you.
forth that the torch has been passed to a new generation of the children of Israel.
That's so perfect. You're perfect, man. Who wants to start at 31? 31.
I'll read.
All right, Annie.
Moses went and spoke these things to all Israel. He said to them, I am now 120 years old. I can no longer be active. Moreover, the Eternal has said to me, you shall not go across yonder Jordan. It is indeed the Eternal your God who will cross over before you and who will wipe out those nations from your path. and you shall dispossess them. Joshua is the one who shall cross before you, as the Eternal has spoken. The Eternal will do to them as was done to Sihon and Og, kings of the Amorites, and to their countries when God wiped them out. The Eternal will deliver them up to you, and you shall deal with them in full accordance with the instruction that I have enjoined upon you. Be strong and resolute. Be not in fear or in dread of them, for it is indeed the Eternal your God who marches with you. God will not fail you or forsake you. Then Moses called Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and resolute, for it is you who shall go with this people into the land that the Eternal swore to their fathers to give them, and it is you who shall apportion it to them. And it is indeed the Eternal who will go before you. God will be with you and will not fail you or forsake you. Fear not and be dismayed. Moses wrote down this teaching and gave it to the priests, son of Levi, who carried the ark of the Eternal's covenant, and to all the elders of Israel. And Moses instructed them as follows. Every 7th year, the year set for remission, at the Feast of Booths, when all Israel comes to appear before the Eternal your God in the place that God will choose, you shall read this teaching aloud in the presence of all Israel. Gather the people, men, women, children, and the strangers in your communities, that they may hear and so learn to revere the Eternal your God and to observe faithfully every word of this teaching. Their children, too, who have not had the experience, shall hear and learn to revere the Eternal your God as long as they live in the land that you are about to cross the Jordan to possess. The Eternal One said to Moses, the time is drawing near for you to die. Call Joshua and present yourselves in the tent of meeting, that I may instruct him. Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves in the tent of meeting. The Eternal appeared in the tent in a pillar of cloud, the pillar of cloud having come to rest at the entrance of the tent.
I'm sorry. I got to pause here for a second. I know it's getting so dramatic. You know what I just noticed? I don't think I've ever seen this before. It says number 9. It says Moses wrote down this teaching. That's amazing to me because
I never. Yeah, that's true. I never heard about him writing anything down either. It was always oral for a long time.
Well, if you remember, the beginnings of Reform Judaism, one of the tenets that Reform was in disagreement with what became the Orthodox. Okay, sorry about that, Mike. Can you put it back?
No, okay, sorry. No, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that the fellow who established Reform Judaism in Germany, as you probably know,
Yes.
this is one of the passages that he said. According to the Orthodox, Moses came down the mountain with the entire Torah, not just the Ten Commandments,
That I know. Yeah.
but the entire Torah. Well, if you read in here, Moses himself wrote down the teaching. So this did not exist before this time. And remember that this is now on year 39 or year 39 and a half.
That's when they were writing it, right?
Of the 40 years that we were just about to cross the Jordan. And what Moses is saying to Joshua is, you're the one that is going to do it. But Moses wrote it down.
Wow. That's fascinating. I always thought it was orally given to Joshua, but then eventually it was written down. I didn't know that. That's very interesting to me. That's very new to me. Yeah.
And it says a similar thing in the Plough commentary, wrote down this teaching, that is the Book of Deuteronomy.
That's right.
But older commentators believe that believed this to refer to the whole Torah and considered it proof that the Torah was the work of Moses.
Wow.
Correct.
That's why they call it the 5 books of Moses.
Absolutely.
And in
Yes.
Devarim, actually, like Deuteronomy, is really like Moses giving a rehash of.
Well, he did. He was the whole
Everything.
rehash of the, whatever happened before, right?
Yeah, it's like a,
Did a
it's like
whole
a
summary.
Yeah, it's like the Reader's
Right.
Digest version of everything else. He goes over,
Well, you
tells everybody how
Oh.
what a pain in the tuchus they've been for 40 years, how they haven't followed anything.
I just want to point out too in 10, if you notice, it mentions the 7th year. So in
Right.
Judaism, every 7
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, we know
Yeah.
about that.
And I'm not sure that everybody here knows about that, but then it mentions the Feast of Booths. Who knows the Feast of Booths?
Sukkot.
Sukkot, which comes
Sukkot.
right after Yom Kippur. So
Right.
and this is all connected with our, that's kind of why we call it the holiday or the holy day season. Most of our holidays, we jam like, I don't know, 6 holidays into 6 weeks,
The days of law. You're right.
and and we have everything. So like Slichot, which is our forgiveness time, which starts next Saturday, always the Saturday before Rosh Hashanah.
Can I add something too? I like the fact that the Torah is supposed to be read to everybody at the 7th year during the Shemitah.
Yeah.
So it's like, like it says that the children that haven't become familiar with it yet,
That's
like,
how they,
people are busy doing everything, but during
And a
the
lot of people didn't
Shemitah,
read it
when
that time.
everybody's more at rest and the land is being refreshed and rejuvenated,
Plus they
everybody
had to read.
all the people have to be rejuvenated with their knowledge of the Torah and the commandments, and that's the gap. It's cool how it happens, like it's in line with the Shemitah.
And the thing is, Gary, that a lot of people didn't read anyway at that time.
Right.
They had to teach it to them by with the priest reading it
Right.
so that they would hear it because they couldn't read it.
Yeah. But it's cool that it ties it with the Shemitah.
Well, of course,
Yeah,
they only
it's
read in Aramaic, maybe, and not Hebrew. That's why.
That's a good point, though. Wait a minute. If nobody was reading in those days, how did Moses write it down? If he could,
Not everybody. I'm saying a lot of the people only could read in Aramaic, not Hebrew.
I see.
Because Aramaic was the language that they spoke. And the Torah is written in Hebrew, except for certain sections that are in.
What about the 7th year? Could you explain that a little bit, Lauren, or some?
All right, Mike. I think that I can give you a little bit of a clue. Okay, every 7th year, you let the land lay fallow. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that it would recover. Given the fact that we were primarily an agricultural nation, if every 7th year you did not till the soil, now you had the time to go and listen to the priest and listen to the Torah.
That's what I'm waiting for. I want that to come back. I want a 7th year sabbatical. Everybody, right?
Supposedly in
Everybody.
Israel they do that. Supposedly in Israel, the farmers do that.
And
And then the Jubilee
Well,
after 50 years.
Yeah.
And
Does-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask a question. Is it like rotating? Like, is your 7th year the same as my 7th year, so that everybody is staying away from the land at the same time, or does mine happen at a different time so that it's always rotating? That there's a different year coming out.
Right.
Same time.
Well, I would imagine
Always
that
the same time.
when you
It's the
start.
same time. And then we leave, this goes to also when we speak to, you're supposed to let the fields, it's kind of, they overgrow, they die off, they rejuvenate on that 7th year. It's also the time where if there's any leftover harvest, where people can come and take as those who are hungry, which is why every Yom Kippur we do a food drive,
Right.
consistent with that. And I think Mike mentioned the Jubilee year, so 7 times 7. So every 7 years is certainly a rest, and it follows in lines with Shabbat. The 7th day we rested. Every 7 years we rest the lands. every 7 times 7 on the 49th year, we give it a rest because the 50th year is our Jubilee. 7 is
You go around the bride 7 times.
7 is
Well,
hugely
7 is very important.
large number, like a consistent number in Judaism.
All right, and there's another thing that also happened on the year 49. Does anybody know? Very important.
In the 49th year?
In the 49th year, what happened on the 49th year?
I don't know.
All the slaves were freed.
They were.
Oh, yes.
Jubilee.
That's right.
And all debts were forgiven, right?
And all
When-
debts,
All these were
Yes.
forgiven.
exactly. All debts,
Land was supposed to be returned to the original line of ownership.
yes.
But even then, the land always belongs to God,
And
and
this
only
is-
travelers.
That's why, I only borrow money on the 48th year.
Aha!
All right, Dr. Mike. Yeah.
So, and also, when we get to that, in that section that actually really talks about the Jubilee year, you're going to find the words of that are written on the Liberty Bell.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, right.
I can't think of them at the moment, but I do know this.
Proclaim liberty throughout the land or
Yeah,
something?
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Let freedom ring throughout the land.
Right.
Yeah, let's
So
read-
is there still accounting going on? Like, where are you in that 50-year cycle? Are we at year 36? Is there accounting going on now?
No.
No, that's why the world's so screwed up.
Ah, okay.
I don't know.
People don't even know about this.
I'm sorry to be asking so many questions. I just don't. I'm
Fantastic
trying
question.
to learn.
Yeah.
Fantastic questions.
A good question, Annie.
I will tell you, Annie, that we do use those numbers in our individual congregations for celebratory events, for fundraising, for coming together, for creating community. So usually, there'll be a 50th year celebration of some sort, and
Jubilee.
things like that.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
So here, I just looked up the inscription, the Liberty Bell,
Yes.
and there it is. It says right here, proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. This verse
Right.
refers to the Jubilee, or the instructions to the
Right.
Israelites to return property and free slaves every 50 years.
Wow.
Son of a
Yep.
gun.
So
There it
cool. I think that's so cool. I really do.
They sure didn't free the slaves, did they?
No,
Yeah.
see, that's what happens.
But also, I was told by, I think it was the rabbi, he was explaining that slavery, the way we know of it, like with black slaves, is different than the slavery then. It wasn't the type of slavery. They were more like servants. It's hard to explain,
Indentured
but
servants, really.
It's like the way
they
it's
were
almost like the
different
way
than
Jacob,
slaves.
They were
the
called
way
indentured-
Jacob worked for
The
Laban.
way the blacks were treated was not
Yes.
nice.
Way
They were-
Jacob, all right, Jacob and Laban. Like,
Right, absolutely.
Right.
either you owed something
Really.
to somebody, or somebody had something you want, so you, for a period of time, work
Right.
for them,
Right.
and then they're supposed to give you the option to leave. And then, of course, they could also opt to stay. And then the
Yes.
Torah says you got to go near the doorpost and put a nail through the air or something.
Oh, yeah.
Really? I didn't know
Or more
about that.
fire. That's some good fire and brimstone.
Yeah, we read that a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month.
Yeah.
All right, back to Torah. So here we have Moses and Joshua going to enter the tent, and the Eternal appeared in the pillar of cloud coming
Oh,
to the tent. More.
I can read.
Yeah.
You'll have to put up with my voice. The Eternal said to Moses, "You are soon to lie with your ancestors. The people will thereupon go astray after the alien gods in their midst, in the land that they are about to enter. They will forsake me and break my covenant that I made with them. Then my anger will flare up against them, and I will abandon them and hide my countenance from them. They shall be ready, prey, and many evils and troubles shall befall them. And they shall say on that day, surely it is because our God is not in our midst. that these evils have befallen us. Yet I will keep my countenance hidden on that day because of all the evil they have done in turning to other gods. Therefore, write down this poem and teach it to the people of Israel. Put it in their mouths in order that this poem may be my witness against the people of Israel. When I bring them into the land flowing with milk and honey that I promised an oath to their fathers, and they eat their fill and grow fat and turn to other gods and serve them, spurning me and breaking my covenant, and the many evils and troubles befall them, then this poem shall confront them as a witness, since it will never be lost from the mouth of the offspring. For I know what plans they are devising, even now, before I bring them into the land that I promised on oath.
Wow.
Somebody take it from there.
Okay.
No.
That's something. Isn't this something that this is like the side commentary that God is revealing to Moses and Joshua. Hey, look at guys, come over here. I gotta touch you.
What's interesting is God talks about how they're going to stray from the law after Moses' death, and that's what the world is still doing.
Oh,
They get
yeah.
away from, they get fat and greedy, and they say we can forget about it.
Yeah. I think it's worse now than before. I think it's
But also that God is not in our midst. They're blaming God for not protecting the people. So there's just a little bit of underlying. You got to look for some of those hidden messages too. So it's not that surely because God wasn't in our midst and all the evils of turning to other gods, idols and whatever, but they're blaming God for not protecting them.
God's not giving them what they want.
Right.
For not protecting them.
But they abandoned God.
About giving them what they want.
Right. Well, God's not protecting them because they're not conforming to God's law. He warned them.
They're not. I don't know if they're really sure that why.
The passage that we read last week, I mean, he made it very clear. God makes it very clear. Either you follow my commandments or terrible things are going to happen.
See, I mean, this, and it says back in verse 16, these people will go astray. So it's like they lose their faith. They turn away, and then once they turn away and they go down these other paths, and then once they find that they're at a dead end, then they instead of blaming themselves for losing their own faith and losing the way, they go back and say, it was God's fault. It was that guy. He abandoned us. And
that girl.
Or that girl. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Sorry.
The mother of us all.
Not really one of those, but I thought I'd say it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you. Where were we? Oh yeah, we're down here. All right, we're getting close. Number 22. Lauren, do you want to go for it?
As soon as you stop moving the page.
Here it is.
That day, Moses wrote down this poem and taught it to the Israelites. And God charged Joshua, son of Nun, be strong and resolute, for you shall bring the Israelites into the land that I promised them on oath, and I will be with you. When Moses had put down in writing the words of this teaching to the very end, Moses charged the Levites who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Eternal, saying, take this book of teaching and place it beside the Ark of the Covenant of the Eternal your God, and let it remain there as a witness against, I can't do that, against you, as a witness against you. Well, I know how defiant and stiff-necked you are, even now, while I am still alive in your midst. You have been defiant toward the Eternal. How much more then, when I am dead? Gather to me all the elders of your tribes and your officials, that I may speak all these words to them, and that I may call heaven and earth to witness against them. For I know that when I am dead, you will act wickedly and turn away from the path that I enjoined upon you, and that in time to come misfortune will befall you for having done evil in the sight of the Eternal, whom you vexed by your deeds. Then Moses recited the words of the following poem to the very end, in hearing of the whole congregation of Israel.
We will get the poem next week.
That's right. What a cliffhanger. What a cliffhanger.
Oh,
Yep.
oh darn.
You got to come back next week, everybody. You don't want to miss this.
And
Oh, it's a great poem. Good stuff in the poem.
I know all of these, when it often talks about in hearing, I forgot what it said. You take things down way too quickly too. Now, in hearing, right, go up, down to 30. The last one. So in hearing of the whole congregation, in the hearing of the whole congregation of Israel, you hear that throughout these verses that we've read. These are public words, announcements. Everything is done so publicly, and I think we heard it in the other chapter that we were reading as well. I kind of picked up on that 3 or 4 times throughout our readings tonight. The hearing of the whole congregation, or the whole people of Israel, or the whole everything. So it's public. Everything is public.
And isn't that's kind of it's interesting to me that you're mentioning that, because I just realized one of the things I came across recently in my reading and whatnot, because I'm Christian, and I always feel like Christians and Jews we're just practicing the same religion with some different holidays. But then there was something else that happened when I read somewhere that if there's a revelation, it happens to the whole community in Judaism. It happens, so maybe that kind of ties in with this congregation, because they said they saw the commandments and Moses coming down from the mountain.
Right.
They saw the pillar of fire. They saw what happened to Pharaoh and all, those 10.
And one of the things that we say too is, it's like if you do a good deed or you save one life, it's as if you're saving the whole community or the entire world. Like it's just, and there are definitely a lot of variances of this public thing with Christianity versus Judaism, because I have noticed, especially coming into the time now of Yom Kippur, and we have public confessions. We don't have the private confession every week if people choose to do that. We have communal confessions, and it's once a year. But
Hashamnu.
I know, it's fasting, it's the whole communal confession leading up to it is all about, publicly, we have to go ask for forgiveness. We have to write down our transgressions. We have to, what can we do better next time? Up until Yom Kippur, and we have, how many times do we do it in Yom Kippur? 2, 3 times?
3 times, I think.
The confession, the
Hashamnu.
It's more than 3.
Manitoba. And into Ashamnu is like confession, and it's publicly done.
Right.
So.
And we never talk I, we always talk we all the
Absolutely.
We. All right, yeah.
time. All right, so we ready to hear song?
Yes.
If you want to, I will mute everybody. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
fantastic, Gary. I love it.
Hoorah.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, baby.
I love this time we have together. It's so wonderful. I have so much fun.
Thank you for everything.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.